We hear a lot about psychedelic-assisted therapy, but 3 out of 4 people who choose to consume psychedelics do so at home or in nature with friends or loved ones. I'm April, founder of SetSet, an integration platform to help you get the most out of your psychedelic experiences. The podcast episode you're about to listen to may reference one of my previous shows, The High Guide or How to Do the Pot, because I've been a trusted source in cannabis and psychedelics since 2015. I invite you to visit getsetset.com and sign up for our newsletter to receive your free guide on set and setting to make the most of your next psychedelic journey. Hey, it's your host, April. This show talks about altered states of consciousness brought on by cannabis and psychedelics and is intended for audiences 21 and over. If you've been listening to the show for a while and you like what you hear, please leave us a rating, a review, or a heart wherever you listen to podcasts. And lastly, I'm not a medical professional. If you are experiencing any mental or physical health concerns, please seek a licensed medical professional.
And then when it comes down to it, in order to not do harm while you think you're doing good, it actually requires a lot of inquiry, asking questions, humility, learning.
You just heard from Stephanie Wang, whom we met in our final episode of 2023. Stephanie is the CEO-founder of Ka, which offers a tincture and gummies with the active ingredient Kanna, a non-scheduled, legal to ship and consume, plant-derived product. If you haven't listened to this first episode, I encourage you to go back and listen as Stephanie and I discuss the science of Kanna and how some people are using it to live with greater heart, improve focus, as well as increase creativity and patience. We also discuss why Kanna as an empathogen is the right antidote to our isolation epidemic. What's an empathogen? You're going to have to find out in part 1, so go back into the High Guide feed to find out. Today, we delve into indigenous use of Kanna and where its use stands with these original keepers, and how Stephanie is striving as CEO to create a transparent, inclusive supply chain, and the inspiration behind Ka's brand palette that pulls from the full spectrum of colors in the rainbow. Listen on as I talk shop with the CEO of one of the most exciting consumer brands in psychedelics. But first, I am really excited to tell you about SetSet. It's a deck of cards that I designed with some partners in Toronto to tap into your inner child and create an immersive and playful trip experience. The game SetSet is all about preparing and playing with critical components that set the path of your psychedelic experience, your mindset, and your physical experience up for success. When we take psychedelics, we're often looking for an experience with a heightened sense of playfulness. A big part of the pleasure of a trip comes from reconnecting with our childhood, when we felt more carefree and it was easier to laugh and play. The SetSet cards give you the opportunity to experience the world freed from the adult ways we've been conditioned to receive or understand it. Each card comes with 3 levels of prompts. The first level requires the least amount of vulnerability and sobriety. The next 2 prompts get more complex or spicy, whichever level you choose. These cards are a fantastic way to break the ice and foster a sense of togetherness. You'll get to know other players in new and profound ways. Trust me, I watched this unfold as we held several teas with cards at my home. It's a journey of exploration, connection, and shared understanding. Though the cards are super cool all on their own, we have more for you. Of Like Minds is getting ready to launch a series of SetSet game nights in Seattle. Here's how it works. Sign up for our newsletter at oflikeminds.co so that you can keep up with our SetSet nights and ticket sales. You'll need to purchase a ticket, and all ticket holders will receive a gift when they arrive so that they can safely and vibrantly enjoy game night with a fantastic facilitator that will guide the group through the game. If you're ready to embark on a journey of play and exploration, visit the Of Like Minds website to get your deck today. Make sure to subscribe to our newsletter and follow us on social media at oflikeminds.co to stay updated on dates for upcoming game nights.
Like the time post my career as a film producer, I was sort of at the end of, because I had started a small sort of company doing digital content strategy and digital marketing. And it was at the tail end of that, and I really didn't know what I wanted to do. And that's when I met Kanna and other plant medicine. And even though I was well on my journey, I had always wanted to marry my passion and consciousness with career, and I couldn't quite find a footing until I actually encountered plant medicine. And then things just kind of happened very organically. Where I am now was maybe the plants have always been working through me to guide me this way.
What was your first encounter with Kanna?
It wasn't actually my very first plant medicine journey was with Kanna and not with any of the other plants. This was like 11 years ago now almost. And it was incredible. It took me by surprise entirely because it opened my heart to the point where I felt that everything was love. I loved everyone and everything around me, but I was keenly present. I wasn't, somewhere else. And it's as if a layer had been lifted in the world that I could see it for what it really was, and the connective tissue that is actually made of love, that connects us with the web of life and everything that is in existence. And that oneness feeling, right? That entheogenic oneness feeling that people often get with these kinds of medicines, but while still being super present, right? And being, aware. And I felt a deep sense of acceptance and belonging and peace. And it was really at that moment that it was where, a seed was planted, that I just really wanted to bring this to the world in a much more accessible way. That's what it was like. It was just gorgeous. I actually got introduced to sort of my next lifetime in in the world of consciousness and plant medicine when I started working with Evolver.
Yes, Evolver came to me through the Alchemist Kitchen, which is where you were president.
Yeah, I was definitely part of the team that launched Alchemist Kitchen. So when I joined, there was no Alchemist Kitchen yet. We were trying to figure out a business model. We had just started doing retail, not kind of right before I joined, and Evolver was going through a lot of transformation, transformation itself. One of the big things, in terms of consciousness, and there was at that point there was Reality Sandwich Magazine as well. There was Evolver Learning, which had a lot of wonderful online classes. But what we found was that a really tangible way to touch people is, and how do we sustain ourselves, right? Because that was a big, question. I think with a lot of conscious communities, like what's the business model? And it just made a lot of sense that herbs and plants and herbal remedies, botanical products just made a lot of sense. And, Lou at the time had already started that process. And eventually, it's kind of in that through line, we wanted to create a container that was, even more, that was sort of a little bit separate from Evolver, because it's a slightly different, have a new brand essentially that can really encompass this direction. And that's how Alchemist Kitchen was born. And also we found an amazing space down in Bowery. Everything came together and there we go.
Yeah, it is an amazing space. So working with various brands that offered plant medicine remedies, we'll keep it simple, at the Alchemist Kitchen, where did the seed start to plant that I want a brand that does, I want to do this? Yeah. How did you get to this place with Ka?
It was really through my own personal journey. I mean, it was wonderful being a part of Alchemist Kitchen and Evolver, because I obviously met some amazing thought leaders. We worked with extraordinary herbalists. It was incredible. It was an incredible atmosphere of coming together and, being in a space that you could just be who you were. And there was just a great deal of acceptance there. And it was lovely. But I think for me, I had always wanted to bring the heart piece forward. And I had felt at that time, there's a lot of talk about consciousness, spirituality, a lot of body, right? Because we're always, a lot of people are made aware that they need to shift their way of being when they get sick, right? So it's our bodies that go, oh, wait a minute. And then people are often forced to, because they literally have to manage that, whatever the situation is with their health. And that often is a starting point and a trigger for them to go into a deeper dive into what it is to be alive, right? And what life means to them. For me, I just felt that there was, and it's great all this was happening, but there was a piece that was missing, or not emphasized enough, and it really was for me the heart. We are very good in our heads. We're intellectually amazing human beings, right? We often, forget the heart mind connection, and that building this muscle, building the heart intelligence that is needed for us to be in the world in a more balanced way, with more empathy, with more compassion, with more love, but not just talking about it like, oh, it's oh, how nice. And, we think about it during certain holidays of the year, but actually understanding what that means on a day-to-day basis and finding that support. And Kanna for me was such an amazing plant because it brings you into consciousness through the heart, right? Not in a woo-woo way at all, but into a very real felt way, so that you are present, you're not constantly in your mind, nor are you so disassociated because you're having a spiritual journey somewhere out of body. And
Mhm.
so this to me, I thought that is where the rubber meets the road. It's like it's the integration piece, right? It's where we can have all those amazing experiences in life, but how do we really bring it to the everyday, to all of our relationships, to all of our interactions? So for me, if I had to pick a plant, it would be Kanna that could really be helpful. And again, I was like, all right, how do I bring this to more people in an accessible way? And I really wanted to. I think I was also inspired by all the amazing herbalists that had their own brands that we were selling at the Alchemist Kitchen. I was like, I want to create something, that speaks to what I feel is lacking in the world, and I just needed to do that. It was a calling, plain and simple.
And since then, I mean, that would have been nearly a decade ago, or a little over a decade ago, when you had your first Kanna experience. And then, and I know that this is a plant that is indigenous to Africa. So tell us about the due diligence and market research and finding your source, and that good stuff.
Yeah. So I did a lot of personal healing work with Kanna first. And then about 5 years ago is when I met up with, our chief scientist, Dr. Alex Ott, who's amazing. We started to really look into the science, what it does in terms of helping regulate our nervous system, not being addictive, not having any tolerance buildup. It's adaptogenic, no toxicity to our bodies. That alone is amazing for a plant that is psychoactive. But because it's adaptogenic, you can actually, that's why we created a daily supplement, because we're like, actually, this is something that can really support people. And on top of that, it's also, a euphoriant, it lifts mood, it's a natural anxiolytic, so it reduces stress and anxiety. It is a intimacy enhancer, because of its heart opening ability. So it's great for that. And it's great for helping improve, endurance and physical endurance, I mean. So that was about 5 years ago that we started doing that. And I think in the course of that, we started creating some prototypes and testing it, of course. And it took us until a year and a half ago when we actually launched. And even when we were launching, we are still testing, because this is like the first product out there. And, I had been wanting very much to be more connected to organizations in South Africa, because when we only source, by the way, our Kanna from suppliers who do direct profit share with the Khoikhoi and the San. And the Khoi and the San are the traditional stewards of Kanna in South Africa. They've been that, and these are tribes that have been, I would say, one of the earliest human civilizations in the world. So the relationship with Kanna and the San and the Khoikhoi go way, way back. And what I discovered was how actually it was really difficult to find anyone at this point who still is connected with this medicine. And it was really sad. And so all of the research that, was coming from, European visitors, the first time the Europeans discovered it that was documented was back in the 1600s. So, you can read the colonial history of how this medicine was discovered and used. And there are definitely some scholarly articles that talk about, how traditionally the Khoi and the San have used it, but I have, I was very surprised and also found it also an inspiring challenge, because that's also leading to why I'm actually going to South Africa in February of this year. So because we want to find and we want to reconnect that again. When we really want to share this information back with the people who have been stewarding it. And I don't have to go into the history of why they've become disjointed, kind of lost the traditions. Um, a lot, of course, is because of colonialism, but it was very sad for me to realize that was the case. And I'm sure there are still some elders somewhere who definitely know this medicine, but most people you talk to, or most on and Khoi, they don't really know it anymore. I hope that answers your question.
It does absolutely answer my question. I am curious if you sense that there's an openness for that reconnection. Is it just the right time for that reconnection?
Yes, we connected with certain San organizations, and we're going to actually go visit them. We had another colleague who went ahead of us. I think that there's definitely an eagerness. I think there is a desire to reclaim their own stories back. I think that's super important. That's empowering. And yeah, I mean, there's more I'm sure I can say after I visit and actually spend 3 weeks there, and I can come back and share more. But there's definitely a desire. And but there's also, I want to say that there's also, I would say, a keen awareness on their part to speak with people who have the right intent and not are just there to, again, exploit, or I don't know, just pay mouth service and that's it, and just kind of have a sort of that indigenous greenwashing, so to speak, on whatever it is that the companies are trying to do. So we are very much cognizant of that, and we have always approached Kanna, the medicine itself, the plant itself, with that respect, and we want to, of course, do the same for the traditional stewards, and the indigenous people of Southern Africa, to do the same, to be the same way. And there is a lot to learn, and I cannot wait to share, more of that wisdom and whatever it is that they are willing to share with us.
It's very rare to talk to a founder, CEO, who is inspired to lead with heart, who is actually truly leading with heart, and thinking about all of your partners in a very humanitarian way.
I completely agree. And also, what often happens is there's this beautiful intention, and then when it comes down to it, it's actually pretty complicated. So you
Yeah.
can have all the intention of doing good, and then when it comes down to it, in order to not do harm while you think you're doing good, it actually requires a lot of inquiry, asking questions, humility, learning. That's why I'm going to South Africa. I don't know. I kind of know my itinerary, but I'm letting literally what needs to show up. I'm letting the medicine guide the way, because this company, myself, our intention is to bring that wisdom, to share it in the highest, most integrous way that's possible, and also to give back and to find the appropriate ways of giving back that actually gets the people who need it the most in the right way. And that is a whole other business. Like literally, that is a whole other thing that I've realized that comes up, and it's an interesting aspect, that I think a lot of companies or brands who are trying to do this for real, I'm sure they come across this all the time.
Right, because there isn't one right answer, because something that has little impact on one group of people may have, a significant contradictory impact on another group of people. And you're like, oh, you have to weigh. Yeah. It's very difficult to do the right thing, because it turns out it's very difficult to do the right thing.
It is. And at the same time, we got to try, right? We got to,
yeah.
It's demanding of us, but it's the rewards are huge, because what perspectives that end up getting shifted, horizons that are broadened, minds that are opened because of that, and connections that are made, and relationships that are, beautiful, that get created in the process, is life. That, the process then becomes the medicine too. For me personally, just having launched this company, and I feel so blessed. Like, I work with amazing people. My team is extraordinary. And just this process is so nurturing, is just makes my life have much more meaning, and purpose on top of just simply the subject of what I am trying to do.
Right, right. There's ROI there for you personally, but I think the quote, the ROI on making sure that we are helping people open their minds and change consciousness and, work on the side of humanity for good that's an ROI that
Yes.
yes, that we're really searching for as well. So I told you I was going to ask you about your brand and the rainbow.
And because it's the full spectrum of aliveness, we wanted to have colors that denoted coming alive, bright colors, full spectrum. So you have the full spectrum rainbow. But in our particular hues, chakras, that's part of it as well, because that is our full spectrum of humanity. It's not one particular piece. So definitely in terms of the design and the branding, and the spectrum of colors, that's so much of what we're about. And just bringing into aliveness also means bringing in not just the joy. People think, oh, joy, that's great. That's awesome. But connecting to our full spectrum of what it means to be human is also acknowledging our sadness, our anger, our frustrations, our, dismay, our despair, So that is something that we want to be always saying, because otherwise we're just, again, being disassociative from our own feelings. And this is not what Ka is about. Ka and Kanna is more like, hey, sit with, come back into the present, feel all your feels, feel your feelings, allow them to surface, right? So let yourself integrate and process them. And that's how we thrive. It's not about just putting something in a box, stuffing it away, and not looking at it ever again. Even the name Ka itself, Ka and then exclamation mark. So Ka is ancient Egyptian for life force. So there's that Ka, that energy, that life force, which is what this product brings. And our mission for the brand and for the company is to restore full spectrum aliveness for all beings. So there's that as well. Why the exclamation mark is because it helps connect us to the language of the Khoisan. And they have 3 different clicks that are in their alphabet, and the click is denoted by an exclamation mark.
Thanks, Stephanie, for sharing your vision of how you plan to, with Ka and Kanna, help others lead a heart-led life. Listen on as Stephanie tells you exactly how you can find Ka online and learn more about the brand on social media.
On our site at ohmyka.com. And our Instagram, you can also follow us there and get information, is ka.empathogenics. So that's ka.empathogenics.